Welcome to video 2, which is all about how you're going to choose values as a family. So this is a really big part of the coaching that I do, and particularly in my third step of my 3-step program, which is trust. And this speaks to the idea that if you are going to trust your decisions as a parent, if you're going to trust your parenting partner, if you're going to trust your child, if you're going to trust your relationship with your child, there has to be a really strong foundational basis for all of them. And that basis is the values that you agree on in your home. That becomes the basis from which you then build your limits. Your boundaries are internal to you. And in an ideal situation, the values that you choose would be the ones that influence your boundaries and then also lead to effective limits, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in video 3. But this is quite a quick video because it's pretty straightforward to explain. It's harder to do, I'm not going to lie. You'll find in your workbook a very long list of values that I have provided. These are not all the values in the world, obviously, and you may have a very different set of value lists in your mind also, particularly if you are from specific cultures, particularly if your household is very much based on your faith, if you are raising a very faith-based family. So you will have all sorts of values. And when we talk about values, what we are saying is that these are the things that we want our children to grow up, to hold true, to be the lights by which they guide themselves. That when we send them out into the world, these are the things that they are going to use to make their decisions with. And so it follows, doesn't it, that if we want them to make decisions based on these values when they're young adults, when they're adults, whatever, then we have to somehow infuse these values through our children. And the way to do that is to bring them into the home and use them for the basis by which you make your decisions as a person, as a parent, because we can't expect our children to go out into the world and make decisions based on the value of kindness if we constantly use mean words in our home against our children. We can't want them to go out into the world with a deep held belief in fairness if we have different boundaries for ourselves compared to the limits we set to our children. Right? I can't have two children with very different limits with no explanation. Careful, because we're talking about equity here. We're not talking about equality. Equity is true fairness, right? The idea that everybody gets the resources they need to get to the point where they are on the same level. So if we want to talk about equity, fairness, then we need to be putting limits in place in our families that lead to the same outcomes for everyone. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. It's kind of easy to explain. It's kind of trickier to do in multicultural families because many of you will have very different sets of values because your values hopefully will have come from the way that you were raised or educated, the religious education that you received. Okay, so the traditional education that you received. So I would like you now to get out your list of values and to go through those and discuss as a family. And if your children are old enough, you can certainly involve them in the conversation. Discuss as a family which of those values are important to you. They will give you a deep foundation from which to then draw your limits, in your home. They will also give you a very powerful conversation point to have with people who look after your children, extended family, teachers, anyone else who is involved in your parenting in some way can also learn about your family values and why you choose to do the things that you do as a parent and as a family. So follow the instructions in the workbook. pick the values, and I will see you for the third and final video of how we then use those to choose what we do and don't allow, what we do and don't do in our family. All right, back in a bit.